Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Mio Cosmetic Cases are the preferred safety touch-up system for pro makeup and hair artists. As makeup and hair professionals, we are constantly having to carry an endless amount of products in our kit, always in search of new ways to condense our kits and increase efficiency on the job. Mio Cosmetic Cases offer on-set touch-up kits that hold multiple types of makeup, helping you save valuable touch-up time on set, keeping your makeup safe and hygienic for talent, and significantly lightening your travel and set bags. Join the Mio movement today at myocosmeticcases.com. Meticulously designed with pros in mind.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today on the Last Looks podcast, I chat with hairstylist Vito Trotta. Vito shares some fantastic stories from working on some brilliant projects. He also explains his new position as the Television Academy Governor for the hair branch and all that's involved to help the Annual Emmy Awards happen. So if you've ever wondered how it all works, Vito explains all.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Vito.
Thank you.
Now, I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a boy named Vito, and when he grew up, he wanted to be...
An actor.
An actor. Nice.
Yes.
And what made you think of wanting to be an actor? When did that kind of idea pop into your head?
Definitely in high school. I just didn't go the route of playing sports, and I became very interested in musical theater and the chorus at my high school and just got really, really involved in that. And my freshman year, I was just way too shy to ever think about auditioning. I was very much of an introvert, and I decided to be a stagehand for the production of The Wizard of Oz. And it was, just doing that, it just opened up so much for me. And I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing. And to see how everything kind of ran backstage and all of that. And then I finally, the following year, I finally worked up the nerve to audition, and I was cast in, I'm trying to think which one first. It was either Bye Bye Birdie first, or it was Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma first.
Nice. I love how you had to watch the Cowardly Lion do his thing.
Yes. And I'm
on this journey.
Yeah, and I'm still friends with the kid who played the Cowardly Lion, and
Amazing.
He's actually a really big deal at Disney now. He's a huge animator.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
and he was just so talented in high school. It was truly amazing.
That's awesome. So you went on to, what did you just say? Bye Bye Birdie?
Yeah, and then Bye Bye Birdie and Pfeiffer's People, and there were I ended up doing about, I don't know, maybe 5 plays, because they did 2 per year, and just absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Do you still remember that first time having to go out on stage and what that kind of felt like?
Yes, I was shaking. Like being an introvert, it's not a comfortable feeling. And finally now at my age, it's a little easier for me to, because I on occasion I do have to public speak at the Television Academy in front of people, and it's definitely easing up for me. But man, as a teenager, it was just absolutely petrifying for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. But once you're out on stage, I guess you just kick into it, right?
Yeah, you got to do it.
And so, what happens from there? How do we move from actor world to
I went to Pierce College and also pursued theater there. And then somehow I just I lost interest a little bit and ended up taking a job, I think at the phone company or something. So it was some like meaningless job. Several of my family members were in the hair industry.
Oh, wow.
I had a couple aunts that were hairdressers. I had an uncle that was a barber. And then I had this, not a first cousin, but like third or fourth cousin or whatever, but, you know, was around the family a lot. And he was a really famous hairstylist, and he worked for John Peters and Ellen Edwards back in the day. And I remember going to the salon to have him do my hair. I think I was even possibly getting a perm at the time. It was the 80s.
That's amazing.
And so I go in, and it was the first time I had been into this John Peters, Ellen Edwards salon. I'll never forget it. It was in Encino, I believe. And my cousin was just so busy, and there was so much energy in the salon and just beautiful people around everywhere. And I just kind of went, wow, this is kind of amazing. And, you know, I just saw him in action, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And I remember going back to work maybe the following Monday and, you know, at the phone company, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't sit in an office.
Not with that fresh perm.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is not happening for me. And I just snapped one day, and I was like, I think I'm going to go to beauty school. And still, even when I made the decision to go, in the back of my mind was, you know what, this will just be like, I'll just do this for like 5 years to save money, and then so I can go on to pursue my acting.
Yeah. And
because I saw how much money he was making. I mean, he had like 4 clients going at the same time.
Right.
And I was like, this is great. And so, yeah. And long story short, went to beauty school, and this amazing beauty school over by the Beverly Center that's not there anymore. And then I took a bunch of finishing classes at Vidal Sassoon, and when they were in Santa Monica. And then that's how I started that journey into hair. And then, Jesus, how 30 some years later, I'm still doing it.
Well, must have been a good decision, I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think it was meant to be, for sure.
So after you'd done your finishing courses and things like that, where did you end up working? Did you go into a salon? Yes,
I did. I did salon. I think my very first job was at Carlton in the Beverly Center, which is unbelievable to think about in the 80s. It was like, I wish I could go back there for like a week, because that was truly an amazing time. And then just from there, I just, went on and worked salons in Beverly Hills, and then wound up on Ventura Boulevard. And then eventually, talk about full circle, ended up working for Ellen Edwards in Studio City in 1994.
Wow, that's awesome. But did you ever actually work with your cousin, or no?
No. We actually never worked together, but yeah, and that was amazing. Alan is such a talented hairstylist, and we were doing a lot of hair shows and traveling, and Veda was backing us, and it was a fun time. It was definitely a really fun time.
That's awesome. So throughout the different salons and things like that, were there any mentors that taught you stuff that you really, really, thank goodness I was working under them?
Absolutely. There was, the two that I can think of are honestly Alan, who I learned so much from. His free form of cutting is just unbelievable. And then there was this girl that early on that I assisted. She was actually, and I think she's still doing hair in a salon. She's amazing. So I would say those two really kind of inspired me and kind of mentored me along the way.
That's very cool. And so how do you make that transition from salon work into the television film world?
Well, interesting story. So at some point in the mid to late 90s, after doing hair shows with Alan, and then I was also an educator for the product line of Veda. Mm-hmm. And Aveda at that time, they were opening a flagship salon in New York City, in Soho. So I had mentioned to some of my Aveda bosses out here, I'm like, God, I would love to, go work at that salon. And I just thought it was going to be the most amazing thing, this 3-story salon in Soho.
Wow.
So I went through some interviews and such, and I ended up booking the job. And I was like, all right, I'm moving to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still working in a salon out here, so I gave away all my clients, so, got rid of my apartment, sold the car, sold my furniture. I was like packed and ready to go. And then some health issues with my mom kind of happened about a week before, and she got really, really, really sick. And so I'm like, well, she'll bounce back. So I called Veda and I said, well, I can't start next week. And they were totally understanding. And they said, take your time. And anyway, my mom never recovered. She just continued to become sicker and sicker. And after about 4 months, I'm like, well, I don't think it's in the cards for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, called them up, had to say, I'm so sorry, but, I can't make it due to some health issues with my mom. So now here I am in LA with no job, no clients. And I was just like, okay, now what? And at the time, my best friend was an up and coming music video director.
Oh, cool.
And I just basically, he knew the story, obviously, that I couldn't go. And I just begged him. I'm like, come on, man, you got to start letting me do hair for some of these music videos.
Yeah.
And he did. Started doing music videos, and along the way I met this incredible makeup artist from Spain, and we became fast friends. And I was just sitting home one day waiting, on the next music video or whatever, and she calls me up and she goes, hey, I just heard about this job for Telemundo, which is a Latin language network.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing these 2 shows, and they're looking for hairstylists. And I said, oh, great. And so she gave me the number. I called them up and they said, yeah, can you come in and interview? And I went in and they hired me like on the spot. So they're like, all right, you're starting next week. And I'm like, okay, cool. Still at this time, I knew nothing about the union. Zero. Like joining the union never even entered my mind. I was just looking for the next gig.
Yeah.
It was in front of a live audience. It was like 2 sitcoms, but in Spanish.
Mm.
So I did a season of that, which was like over 30 some days or whatever. And it finished and I went, okay, well, that was a fun little thing. What's next? And I'm sitting home one day and I get a letter from Local 706. And I'm like, what the hell's this?
Yeah.
And I open it up and they're like, congratulations, you've earned enough days to join 706. And I was like, huh. I was like, wow. And so I investigated it a little more and I'm like, oh, there's a union for TV and film. Like I literally was that clueless.
Dude, I don't know how many people you should be telling this story to.
I know.
This is like the easiest ride I've heard of ever.
Uh-huh. Yep. And I was like, I know it pisses a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And I went, this is interesting. I'm like, all right, well, if it helps me find work, I'm down.
Yeah.
And, I remember going to before their big, beautiful office building now, they had this little tiny house converted into an office in North Hollywood. And I show up and they explain it to me and I write them a check and, okay, congratulations, you're in the union.
That's awesome.
And I was like, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so that was in early 2000, and then the rest is history. I've been working ever since. So it's just kind of cool how it happened for me. I know a lot of people really
it's
struggle.
awesome. It's nice to hear a story like that.
Yeah.
So when you were first doing those couple of shows, like were you the only hairstylist there, or were you working under somebody?
No, there was 2 hair and 2 makeup.
Okay.
And so the other hairstylist had got hired first. So I kind of riding on his coattails, so to speak. But then at some point, a couple weeks in, or maybe, 3-4 weeks in, he got fired. And I was like, oh. And so basically they're like, asking me now to find another hairstylist to bring in. And I guess the show was not union, and then it flipped, which is, I think, how it all happened to get in there.
Yeah. I
knew this one hairstylist who also worked in a salon, and I'm like, hey, do you want to work a couple days a week, doing these shows? And, he came in and then, for my first job, all of a sudden I had, responsibility and
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a department head position, but the makeup artist there she was already in the union, so she
kind of knew
knew
the
what was
ropes.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, talk about that for me. Talk about learning as you're going.
Yeah,
Because,
I was going to say, it's like such a
I knew
different
nothing.
environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally all I had done was music videos and photo shoots.
Right.
So it was interesting, but it was good. It was good. It was a great learning experience, and people were very nice. And so I was like, well, this is cool. If I can join the union and do more of this, I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of dig it, and then I'm not, waiting for the next music video to call me.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to ask, coming up through those experiences, was there any advice that was kind of given to you by someone that has stuck with you?
I wouldn't say in those early experiences, but once I joined the union, yeah, I definitely got a lot of great advice from some people along the way, for sure. This really lovely lady who's no longer with us, Candy Connery, who was in 706. Mm-hmm. I kind of became fast friends with her as well, and she actually taught the journeyman class, which was amazing because here I am fresh in the union, and so I did the journeyman classes with her, and she was amazing with wigs, and just really kept in touch with her even after the journeyman classes, and she always gave me just really good advice, and just a really awesome lady. It was sad to lose her many years ago, but
I'm sure always good to kind of have that person who has just solid advice and teach you so much. That's awesome. Now, since joining the union, you've done so much work, so I would love to just hear a little bit more about some of the projects that you've worked on and what a couple of your favorites are and why.
Okay. Well, kind of early on, I did a really cool film called Wonderland with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
And it was just thrilling because it was the cast was amazing. And I really, really love things that are a true story.
Yeah.
Or based on a true story. That's kind of like the thing that I really like a lot. It was just interesting, and it was just really cool. And Val was just such an amazing actor, and I just really like that. And we were in some really cool spots. We shot at not at the exact house on Wonderland Avenue where the murders took place, but I think we shot at the house next door, which was an exact replica, the exact same floor plan as the house. So that was really cool. And that, again, that was very early on, and it was just really exciting.
So for those who may not have seen it, what is the true story?
The true story, it's based on murders that took place in Laurel Canyon, and basically the porn star John Holmes, who was involved in these murders.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of what it was based on. So it was a very, very interesting script, and it was cool.
It's an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
And then to do I'm guessing, was it a little bit of a period piece as well? Because it was back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it was
that's cool.
70s. I think it was like early 70s, I want to say.
Yeah, cool.
Another one that I did was a show called Arrested Development, and it was just I also love a good comedy, and my God, this show just talk about laughing from like the minute you get there till the minute you leave. I've never laughed so hard.
That's awesome. And, I mean, that show did so well. It was really quite a hit. So
yeah, absolutely. And so anyway, I became really close with Jessica Walters, who played the mother on the show. Mm-hmm. And I did her hair, and I'll never forget our very first day of filming. Well, I had met her the day before for a photo shoot, and she was just really funny, and we got along really well. And so our very first day of filming at Fox Studios, I think it was like maybe stage 4 or 5. Anyway, I get her done that morning, and she's like, all right, let's go to set. And so we leave the trailer, and I'm walking with her to set. And I open the door for her to the sound stage, and we start to walk in, and it's very, very dark. And as she takes a couple steps in, she yells at the top of her lungs. Now, this is our first day of filming. She yells at the top of her lungs, who do I have to fuck to get a 40-watt light bulb around here? And I lost it. Literally, I was like, oh my God, I love this woman so much.
Yeah. I mean, not only is she making an entrance, but she's also starting the job off on the right foot as far as safety goes.
Right. Exactly.
Because how many times do you walk into a stage and it's pitch dark and you walk into something? So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But she was, God, was she a hoot. She was just such a cool lady. That was a very interesting production. And then, we had Liza Minnelli on and, another legend. And Liza would be so funny. She'd walk in the morning with a cigarette. And I literally would look at her and go, Liza, you can't smoke in the trailer.
She's like,
and I'm like, oh my God, I'm telling Liza Minnelli she can't smoke in the trailer. Like, okay.
It's very brave of you.
Yeah. She's another, oh my God, she was awesome too. Talk about a treat. I did another little movie several years ago called Some Kind of Beautiful. It did absolutely horrible at the box office, but I had so much fun on it because I got to work with Selma Hayek, who I absolutely love. And so I got to do her hair and we just had such a blast. She was just so lovely and fun and sweet and creative, and I could just go on and on. It's Selma Hayek.
You never know how a project's gonna do when it comes out, and
exactly.
I mean, I would say most of us don't overly care. We just want the experience. I mean, we want it to do well for producers and the actors and all that type of thing, but it's not like you go onto a production or say yes to something because you're like, this is gonna be a hit.
Right, exactly.
You just want the experience of the actual working experience to be fun and enjoyable and challenging and all of that type of thing. I think it gets a little dangerous when you start picking jobs just because you think somehow, I don't know, fame and fortune is going to come from it.
Yeah, no. And I know, and that's a valid point. And I never really do. I really do, I go based on, is it a good script and is it cool actors that I, would like to work with? That's kind of, I never go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to win an Emmy or, oh, it's going to be a huge hit. I just, creatively, I like just a great script, something I can sink my teeth into and then take it from there.
Yeah. Have you ever worked on anything? I did at one point work on something where I read the script before my interview and loved the script. I was like, this is great. By the time we started shooting, the script had changed a little. By the time we had finished shooting, it had changed so much that I was just like, if I read this again, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did.
That, you know what?
It's
funny you say that. Yeah, that totally happened. That totally happened to me not so long ago, to tell you the truth.
It's quite interesting. And you're like, why are you changing it?
Yeah, I read, I don't want to say the name of it,
No,
but
it's totally fine.
It was a series, and the first script and how it was pitched to me was so cool, and I was so into it. Yeah. And oh my God, by the end of the series, it had turned into something so completely different that I was like, wow, if I would have known that this was, the direction that it was going, I probably would have turned it down, to be honest.
Right. I mean, it must happen a lot more with television, I guess, right? Because I mean, you don't get to, I mean, it's very rare for you to get to read all of the scripts up front.
Correct.
You're getting them as you go, right?
Right.
So you
exactly.
don't even know where those journeys and story arcs and all that type of stuff are heading. So
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's very cool. And I haven't done a lot of television. So is it the case sometimes that they get greenlit off just maybe the first 2 or 3 episodes that have been written and the rest of it hasn't even been finished yet before they start shooting? Or
I'm not sure, but I think that when a showrunner or a writer is pitching it to a certain network, I think that, I mean, obviously it's going off the pilot script, but I also think that they kind of have to give their vision of where, the arc and where the story is going.
Yeah.
I would think, I can't imagine a network would greenlight something and just not have any idea how it's going to unfold.
Right. But just the smaller details and the actual scripts themselves may not be finished.
Right.
Right. Wow, it's so fascinating.
And yeah, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, when you do a film, it's kind of nice because when the script's done, the script is done, and you know, you break it down and you go off of that. And with television, it's like, oh my God, sometimes like you're getting new pages like every day or every other day, like where things are, you know, changing.
Yeah, I mean, that
So-
does happen in movies as well. A little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Yeah.
But not for as long, maybe.
Right.
Dealing with that for months on end.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, getting to the point where you have in your career, what kind of attributes do you think have helped you get to this stage?
Let's see. I think, you know, being a really, and I'm sure you'll agree with a lot of these, being a really good listener and, you know, really listening to what the actor wants. And it's really like a group effort, honestly, trying to give the actor what they want, the director, you know, the costume designer, and then, you know, kind of your input too. So those are like the four people that I really try and listen and communicate with. And I think that's just, you know, it's just a really big attribute for me is, you know, getting all of that down. And then obviously, you know, when you're department heading, you got to somewhat be good at multitasking because there's a lot of different wheels going on at the same time that you got to try and juggle and stay afloat. So I would say that I think listening and communicating is just really key.
Yeah. And I think as hairstylists that have come from salon background, and if you did well in a salon, it's because of those things, listening to your clients, being able to communicate with your client.
Absolutely.
And it just really continues on into this line of work. So
yeah, I remember being in a salon and, you know, seeing a coworker or something, and, you know, the client comes in and says, oh, you know, I'd like an inch off the bottom, and the stylist ends up cutting 5 or 6 inches off. And it's like, how did you not hear what they asked for?
Yeah, or at least, you know, confirm like this is how much what you were thinking, you know, in inches, because everyone's inch is very different.
Yeah, exactly. Like how, you know, so that's always been a big thing for me is really just listening and you know, trying to give them what they want and advising them, you know, what you think would be best. But you know, at the end of the day, in a salon, you got to make the client happy, and in TV or film, you have to make several people happy.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally makes sense. I love it. So what do you find most enjoyable about this line of work?
I would say that what I really get the biggest kick out of now is just transforming an actor into somebody completely different. And that's where, and it kind of goes back to me where I love a true story or based on a true story.
Yeah.
You know, I did a couple of years ago, I was the key for Joy Zapata, and we did a Clint Eastwood film called Richard Jewell, which was based on the Atlanta bomber of the Olympics. I forget what year it was, but when they had the Olympics in Atlanta and there was a bomber at the park.
Yeah.
And the actor Paul Walter Hauser that they got to play Richard Jewell, and then Kathy Bates played his mother. And doing them and watching them 100% transform into these people, to me, that's just the biggest thrill. I just absolutely love creating that character. Yeah, I just get so much joy out of that.
What is your process for that? Like working with all the individuals involved?
Well, Joy did a lot. She did a lot of really great research on it, and we, you know, pulled pictures, and we just found like these little like news clips with Richard Jewell. And I actually found a really cool thing where he was on, the real Richard Jewell was on Saturday Night Live, like, you know, years and years and years ago, after he got it, because they had thought he was the bomber and he wasn't. And so after he was acquitted, you know, of course, Saturday Night Live wanted him to be on Saturday Night Live. And so, but yeah, just finding all these cool clips and stuff like that. It was amazing. And then the mother, who Kathy Bates played the mother, but the real mother was still alive.
Oh, wow.
Came to set.
Oh, wow.
I was like, when she walked on set, I'm not kidding you, like I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
And she was just so cool. And but yeah, just to watch that, it was amazing. And Sam Rockwell played the attorney, and the real attorney was still alive, and he came to set as well. So it was just so amazing to see all of that. And we actually filmed in we filmed in the park where the bombing actually happened, and
Yeah.
we filmed in the lawyer's office where the actual real office they used. And so it was just cool. I just love that. I just love true stories. I just find it fascinating.
It is. You've just jogged my memory about something, actually, about when somebody visits set that is, being portrayed in your story, and how freaky that can kind of be. Because I was on it was a Ted Bundy thing. So you're like, full-on serial killer situation.
Right.
And it was more of the story of one of his long-term girlfriends. And she had a daughter who was not Ted Bundy's daughter, but the two of them visited set. And to me, oh man, it was just mind-blowing. Just, try not to stare, try not to, it's just like, oh my God, that is her. She was in a long-term relationship with Ted Bundy. Like, that's insanity to me.
Yeah.
But so fascinating, and just so crazy that she was visiting the set of a film that was kind of, about a part of her life that I'm sure she'd rather forget.
Yeah.
But it was, it's those crazy moments that you're just like, when would you ever normally be in this situation?
No, I know. It's just amazing. What's that old saying? Art imitating life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, very, very cool. Well, she didn't come to set, but when we were doing Wonderland, the ex-wife of John Holmes was still alive.
Wow.
And Val Kilmer went to visit her.
Yeah.
And they literally sat down, and she gave Val a necklace, like one of John Holmes' necklaces.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was, you know what I mean? It was just that kind of stuff. It was just, it just absolutely fascinates me. And I find it just super exciting in our industry.
Yeah. I don't think, sometimes I don't know whether I just take it for granted or I just don't think about it. And you're just kind of, working along, and then you're like, hang on a minute. Oh my goodness, we're actually standing in the place where blah, 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 where this happened. Or, oh my goodness, because you get to go into places that not everyone gets access to. So sometimes you just really have to stop and look around and go, wow, this is actually really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know it's, same thing. Years ago, did this little film, and we shot it at the old Ambassador Hotel on Wilshire that is now since torn down. But, it's where Robert Kennedy was killed, in the kitchen.
Wow.
And literally, I got to go in the kitchen and stand right where he was shot and died. And it was like, all right, this is really kind of freaky.
It's freaky. It's interesting. It's a lot of feelings that probably go on when you're in a spot like that.
It's just, but it just boils back in it, just history. I've just always been a huge fan of history, and I love all that. So
I'm guessing from what you were wanting to do as a teenager and be more on the acting side of things, I assume you have quite an amazing kind of respect for your cast that you work with.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Crazy respect. And there's, we're not always on greatest project or, with the greatest actors. And, I still always love the process. But then there's those very, very special times when you're working with someone who is just so amazing that I just find myself sitting in front of the monitor and I just get lost in the performance. And that happened years ago. I did a series called The Shield, and one season Forrest Whitaker was on, and another season Glenn Close was on.
Wow.
And I mean, talk about a masterclass in acting.
Yeah.
And I just, even when I didn't have to be on set, I found myself sitting in front of the monitor, just mesmerized by how absolutely amazing they were.
Yeah, well, that's so cool. It's awesome. So, what kind of project have you not worked on that you would like to?
Well, a really, really good like thriller, not a scary movie, but a thriller.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that I've ever done that. And it just so, and a funny story, a couple years ago, I did a commercial with Bryan Cranston,
Oh, yeah.
who is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
And they called me up to do him, and they wanted me to turn him into the twin girls from The Shining. It was for Mountain Dew. It was a Super Bowl commercial.
Oh, cool.
Well, he played a couple different parts. He played the Jack Nicholson part, and then at the very end of the commercial, he's the twin girls from The Shining.
Nice.
And so I had to do the wig for that. And I remember I just wanted it to be perfect. And, the costume designer did the dress exactly like the little twin girls in The Shining. And then as I studied photos from that, the little girls in the Shining, they had this kind of interesting white clip in their hair. And I'm like, I've got to find that clip. I've got to find that clip. And I had to end up like making it.
Oh, wow.
And so I made this little clip and painted it, and it was truly amazing. It looked spot on. And it was just a one-day job, and I met him, and he was super, super cool and nice, and I really liked him. And it's so funny. And I thought after, we took some photos afterwards, and I'm like, I have a feeling I'm going to work with him again someday. It just resonated with me. I'm like, I got to make that happen because he's really amazing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, about 2 weeks ago, I get a phone call, or actually my agent did, and he has a new series on Showtime called Your Honor. And it's a thriller. And I think they shot the first season in New Orleans. It takes place in New Orleans. And then it was supposed to be a limited series, just one and done.
Yeah.
And I guess it did so well on Showtime, they decided they want to do more of it.
Oh, that's cool.
And so anyway, I got hired to department head that, and which I actually start later today. So I've been watching season 1, and I don't have Showtime, so which is why I didn't watch it originally. But they sent me the first season, and I'm literally on my couch watching it, and I'm like having the most horrible anxiety because it is so dark and a thriller, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh, you're going to have so much fun sinking your teeth into that one.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know that I haven't been this excited in a long time to start a project.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm super excited to work with him again, and it's a great cast, and yeah, it'll be fun.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. That's so much fun. Hey, having worked in different roles on different projects, in different teams, what are some professional ethics that really resonate strongly with you and you feel like maybe more people in our line of work need to kind of grab onto?
Well, for me, I really, even if I'm a day player or a key, or if I'm department heading, ethics are a really, really big part of our job, and it's just, I always just try and go in and do the best job. I show up professional. And, I've always been one of those people from when I was a kid. It's like dress for success type of thing.
Yeah.
So I always just try and be groomed and look good, and just, as far as, and I tell my team this a lot too, just, stay in your lane. Yes, it's makeup and hair, but we do hair. So you don't need to like butt your nose into makeup, and just, just steer clear of the, gossip and drama.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's just a huge thing, and it's just unnecessary. And, a lot of times a lot of people, they just really lose track of how blessed we are in this industry. And God, we really, truly are. We make a really good living. We get to be creative. We get to travel. We get fed. It's like, I still find it magical all these years later, 22 years later, I still find it pretty magical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like it through your excitement for this next job. So that's
Oh my
awesome. I
God.
love it.
I literally can't wait. I'm going to do a wig. I'm going to do a wig fitting today, and I just like I don't know that I've ever been so excited to drive up to Santa Clarita. But I am. I really, really am.
And for those who don't know, Santa Clarita is outside of Los Angeles and it's a little bit of a hike for most people. So
Yeah.
for me in Long Beach, it's like it's a
Yeah.
it's another planet. It
That's a
feels like
doozy.
it's so far away. So I would love to know, because we're always learning new stuff all the time. So what is something new and exciting that you've learned recently?
Well, a couple things. Well, about 2 or 3 years ago, you know what? I really need to learn more with textured hair because I never did it in the salon. And when I first joined the union, I really never truly did it either. And so I gotta learn the ins and outs of textured hair.
Yeah.
And so I've just been learning from different people, and sometimes I'll call up my friend Camille Friend, and I'll be like, "Hey, what do you think of this product? And what do you think of this, this tool and blah blah blah." And she'll kind of, give me her input, and or I'll just ask different people. And so I've been kind of learning how to work with textured hair a bit. And one of the things that I've done to learn, and it was really cool, is I have a really good friend who has textured hair, and he actually came to me last year and he's like, "Hey, can you help me find a stylist? I need to find somebody to cut and color my hair." And I said, "Okay." And so I started asking people, and I don't know, it must have been a time. Well, it was kind of during the pandemic, and like nobody wanted to do new people in the salon, and then people were just super busy with their so I couldn't find anyone for him.
They're kind of playing catch up, weren't they? Because
yeah, and I remember calling Camille, and I said, "Camille," and she's like, "You can do it." She goes, "Just do it," and I was like, "Okay," and so he agreed to let me do his hair. And so he, comes over to my house, and I colored it and I cut it, and it came out really, really good. He was thrilled. And I was like, wow, I just cut and colored textured hair and it actually came out really great.
that's awesome.
And so I was like, really proud of that. And now I cut and color them, I relax them, I do. I'm like, okay, this is not bad. I get it. It's
Yeah.
So
and it's the repetitive nature of it as well. I mean, him, coming back each time and doing the maintenance and
yeah. So it's kind of
awesome.
cool. And then the other thing that I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I get lost on Instagram with all these hair tutorial videos.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so much to watch and look at.
So much to watch, but I have learned some amazing updo techniques.
Nice.
And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then I'll try it out and I'll be like, all right, this is amazing. So yeah, I would say those two things within the past couple of years of what I've really been learning a lot of.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, I know you have recently become a governor, is it, of the Television Academy?
Yes.
So can you explain that to me?
Sure. So the Television Academy is the company that puts on the Emmy Awards. So they put on the Emmy Awards and all of our crafts that are on set, but they have governors for a lot of different, so they have 2 governors for each category. So there's like, say, casting has 2 governors, stunts has 2 governors, makeup has 1 governor, hair has 1 governor, but makeup and hair is together. So there's like your 2 governors.
Yeah.
Choreography, actors, so everything is represented at the Television Academy. So there's probably about 30 some governors.
Okay.
And we're kind of like basically like the board of directors for like a big company. So once a month, I go to a board meeting where we just discuss business and we vote on certain things. We're basically just kind of constantly shaping kind of the rules of the Emmys and how people submit. And So, just every year they're just tweaking it to try and make it more fair and like an even playing field for people to get nominated and to actually win.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of meetings and voting. And so that's one aspect of it. Like right now, what I'm doing, because the Emmys are coming up in September, is all the the people that are submitting to be nominated for an Emmy, I pretty much have to go through most of those submissions. So we have to make sure the technical description is accurate, stuff like that. And then a lot of the submissions now too, you can put 4 people on the ticket from your team. But if it's a really, really big production, like say The Voice or Dancing with the Stars, where they have, 20 stylists working.
Yeah.
You can petition for 4 more.
Wow.
You can potentially have 8 people on the ticket, but you have to petition for the other, how many you want to add beyond the 4.
So you need a good reason.
And you need a good reason. So there's just rules to follow, like especially like for period and character and contemporary hair. Something that we don't accept is like a background supervisor or someone who's just doing background.
Mm-hmm.
So there's eligible titles and ineligible titles.
Right.
So when we get these submissions with these petitions, I have to go through them and kind of, they send call sheets. So when they submit, they have to, if they're petitioning, they have to send 5 call sheets. They have to send the credits. So I have to like go through all of that and make sure that the petitions are eligible titles and not ineligible titles.
So how many people are like, how many, that's so many. How do you do this?
It's a lot of work.
On average, how many people are submitting? Not people, but productions, I suppose, like projects.
It's usually over 100.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be.
Yeah, because it's also, the Emmys is worldwide. So
yeah.
It's not just what we're doing here in LA or New York. I mean, it's productions from Europe, Australia, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And a challenge that I've hit this year, that is one of the things that I really need to focus on, is in Europe, their titles are different than ours. Here in America, we have department head, assistant department head / key, and then we have hairstylist. There, they have makeup designer. Well, first of all, they do hair and makeup together.
Yeah.
So when they submit for an Emmy, they have to pick one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's not just Europe. They do that, through England, Australia, New Zealand, all over most of the country.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. So I have to, I got to figure out, okay, hair designer is our equivalent of department head.
Yeah, right.
So it's just a lot of that, just trying to figure out, again, the eligible titles and the ineligible titles. And
so when you're doing this and you're on a job, are you doing this in your sleep?
No, I always have my laptop with me. So sometimes at lunch I'll work on it, or on the weekends, and honestly, this is the really busy time for me right now.
Yeah.
Once I think next week I think later this week, the submissions are kind of all done and finished and in. And then it becomes a little easier for me. Then it's the fun part. Then I get to go to the Emmy Awards and the Governor's Ball and, all of those fun parties and stuff like that. So that's kind of the payoff, for kind of what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. So how it works, so they submit their projects, you kind of weed through to make sure everything's how it should be.
Correct.
And then what happens?
Their submissions are all approved. Then it goes to a first round of voting.
And it's the members of the Television Academy that are
Correct.
Voting. And is
Correct.
that from all different areas? Like not just hair and makeup, but other areas are voting at that point?
Well, no, I'm 99% sure that for hair and makeup categories, I think it's just hair and makeup people voting. For
that first lot of voting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And then it goes down to, I think 5 or 6 or something like that, or maybe 10. I don't know. It goes down to the final ballot.
Yeah. Awesome.
For the Emmys. Yeah.
It's exciting. And what made you think of getting that job? doing that position?
Well, there's a hair governor and a makeup governor,
Yeah.
and then we each have 5 people under us, and we call it a peer group executive committee.
Okay.
So with hair and makeup, there's 2 governors, and then there's 10 people on. There's 5 hair, 5 makeup on the PGEC.
Okay.
And the peer group executive committee, they also help in shaping the rules and doing stuff like that. You know, we kind of just bounce ideas off of each other and, you know, try and go forward.
So is that where you started? You were
that's
in
where
that
I started.
committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
So many years ago, my friend Judy Crown was the governor, and she asked me to be on the PGEC. I had no idea what it meant. I'm like, okay. And so, you know, you did that. And with the PGEC, you have to show up to like 2 or 3 meetings a year for a couple hours. I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, just kind of did that. And then from there, I think Monty became the governor, and he asked me to stay on and do that. And then after Monty was out, Mary Guerrero, who I adore, was the governor right before me. And she also had me on her PGEC, and she was coming up to where her term was. She was terming out because you can only do it for so many years.
Right.
She called me up last year. And well, first of all, when you're on the PGEC, you serve like a couple years, and then you have to take a year off.
Right.
And then you can come back and do a couple more years, and then you got to take. So I was on the PGEC in 2020. Then I had to take 2021 off because I had served too many years.
Right.
And it just so happens that Mary was terming out, and all of a sudden she just called me one day and she's like, "Hey, I want to recommend you for governor." And I went, "Huh?"
Who, me?
I'm like, what? And she goes, "No." She goes, "You know, you've served on this a long time, and you and I are kind of aligned in our thoughts of, you know, where we want things to go." And she goes, "I really think you'd be a great governor." And I'm like, she goes, "You know, can I put you up for it?" And I go, "Yeah, I guess." I go, "You know, I'm open to the idea." And so I kind of thought that it was like pass the baton type of thing. Then come to find out, oh no, it has to be voted on.
Right.
And I was like, oh God. I'm like, why did I agree to this? I'm like, if it doesn't, you know, if I don't get voted in, then I'm going to feel shitty and, you know, whatever. And so, anyway, so then like 2-3 weeks go by and I don't hear from her. And I'm like, I go, well, maybe you know, whatever. If I didn't get it, I didn't get it. And then she just texted me one day. She goes, "You were voted in unanimously." And I was like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how it all came to place. And then she stepped down in December, and I took over in January. I had to go to this big 2-day orientation, and you have to sign a bunch of NDAs. Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. But I have to say, I was, again, super nervous about, you know, doing this. After the orientation, it felt so amazing. And everyone at the Academy is so wonderful and so nice. You know, all these other different governors that are producers and directors and casting and stunts and choreography. And literally they just all come up and start talking to you and welcome you. And it's kind of like a big family, you know, and it's really nice. And once a month when we do our board meetings, we show up at the Academy, and they have the most amazing caterer, and they put on, you know, they do this beautiful dinner for us and drinks, and we just kind of, you know, hang out and talk about business and vote on certain things. And so it's really nice. It's, you know, it's different than being on set, but it's still, I'm with creative people, and it's just like a really nice family. So I kind of just turned my nerves into now like, wow, this is really cool, and I'm going to savor every minute of it, you know, because, you know, I mean, it's a 2-year term, and then I could, you know, if I want to, I could run again and do 4 years. And then I think after 4 years, you're termed out. I'm just savoring every moment of it. You know, it's just really nice. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
nice
I'm
to
excited.
Have another community to kind of be involved
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, and I've made some really good friends, and we get invited as governors, we get invited to like really cool interesting parties and events. And so it's just kind of fun. It's just kind of really, really fun. And yeah, it's a little more work than I thought, but I got
but it
through
sounds like it balances out with the parties and the good catering, so I think you're okay.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So
I would love to just have you visualize yourself in your trailer.
okay.
Everything's set up. You've got your station set up how you like it. And if I was to come in and take one tool or product away from you, what would freak you out? What would you be like? No, don't take that one thing, Jamie Lee, please.
My Temp 2 airbrush.
Your Temp 2 airbrush. Copy that.
That's the one tool I just can't live without.
I like how quickly you answered that as well. You're like, yep, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah. Well, because I use it so much.
Yeah.
The little mini one, the little for hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that tool. That's probably one of my favorite tools.
And what one person would you like to hear on the podcast?
I would love to hear Beatrice D'Alba, a hairstylist who won the Academy Award for the movie Frida.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And she's got some great stories, and she's another one I kind of look up to as a little bit of a mentor. She's the one who we have worked together. Awesome. And phenomenal hairstylist, and she's the one who actually turned me on to the Selma Hayek job.
Oh, nice.
And because obviously she did Selma for Frida, and and she taught me, which I never knew how to do before. She taught me how to do a fracture wrap.
Amazing.
For under a wig, and yeah. She's a great one, man.
That's awesome. Well, Vito, it has been so awesome speaking to you today. You've taught me a lot just in this one conversation, so that's amazing. I never knew anything about the governor position with the Emmys. Love knowing more about that stuff.
Yay.
And just thank you so much for your time.
And thank you. It was a real pleasure to be on, and I'll look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, it's always good to hear back.
That's right. Thank you so much.
For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.